an unlimited number of workout routines, conflicting opinions online. So how the hell are you supposed to find the best workout routine for you? In this video today, I will be guiding you towards the most optimal workout routine for you based on things such as your lifestyle and your goals. If you guys do like the sound of what this channel has to offer and the content in this video, please do consider liking, subscribing and sharing with your friends because it really does mean a lot. And if you don't like the content, you can always unsubscribe at any point. So with that all out of the way now, let's just get straight into the video. I'm just going to do some really quick background information though, because there is a proper video that in greater depth than that on my channel. It's the first video on the channel. It's called Introduction to my channel and I go into it in much greater detail, so check that out if you are interested. But essentially I am more focused on football now, but I do also keep things like hypertrophy and weightlifting sort of stuff in my program, so I am very clued up on it and I've been particularly focused on it over the last year and a half sort of thing. So with that being said, I'm going to be talking about different examples of lifestyles like mine and seeing how you can adapt your gym and weights work based on that. Also some gym accounts such as TNF, JPG and Ryan Dew is very good accounts to follow. I'd say JPG is probably the best for anyone, and then maybe TNF for those who take it a bit more seriously, and Ryan Dew is for those who even want it even more in depth, because I don't want you guys to follow them and think that I'm now overwhelmed by the information that they're giving forward.
I'm panicking.
Yeah, don't panic.
No, I am, because I'm going to lose my job.
So don't stress it too much, but if you are interested further, those are some accounts that I've used to understand my knowledge of the gym. So with regards to the gym split that you pick, there are some standard ones such as the push-pull legs, the upper-lower split, total body split, and the Arnold split, just to name a few. Now, which one you choose can be determined exactly down to you, and you can also adapt it into different ways. There's this thing called a bro split, and you can even have your own custom split. You can change things around to fit you best. For example, people who often do the push-pull leg split, some people do, is they train the opposite arms to what they've been using throughout the workout before. Is a new sort of modern thing because of research showing that you can get better stimulus to your biceps on a push workout, and then they can recover a little bit ready in time for the pull workout and vice versa. So doing your triceps work on a pull day.
Oh, let's just hold on. No, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. No.
Now, when weighing up the pros and cons of each one, there's various things you should try and consider. First of all, a very obvious one that isn't stated enough is personal enjoyment.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
You've got to be able to have a split which you can be like, I'm waking up today and yeah, it may not be something I want to do. I might rather stay at home, but I'm going to have a bit of fun doing what I'm going to do in the gym. That's one key factor. Being able to train the muscle groups multiple times. Now, as we'll go into detail here, so that's something I'm not too concerned about because I'm not going down the bodybuilding stuff. I mean, I never was going down the bodybuilding stuff, but I'm focusing less on the hypertrophy work and more on the football. But if you are wanting to focus on hypertrophy, then training the muscle group at least twice a week is a good sort of range to go for, and also being able to make sure that your muscles have enough time to recover and rest before the next session. So for that reason, when looking at some traditional splits like the total body split and the bro split, those are things that I don't favour.
Oh, well, in that case, look, I'm not going to bother.
And the reason why I don't like them is for the complete opposite reasons. The bro split isn't very time efficient because you train quite a few times a week and it's focusing on a small, like a muscle group per session, and so it doesn't get trained more than once a week. And it can take up a few days, and for people that might have to travel a long time to go to a gym to do a small session, it might not be as time effective. Whereas with the total body split, it's doing so much of a muscle group, so many different muscle groups within one session, you almost can't get as much efficient training within a total body session. So I prefer things like a push-pull leg split or upper body, lower body split. Now, I do just want to reinstate what I said already in the video about the fact that you need to train for enjoyment. So if something like a pro split or a total body split is something that gets you more interested in the gym, then it's better than doing nothing, that is for sure. So this is just my recommendations. When I was doing more hypertrophy focused work and less football work, I would do push-pull legs, and now upper body, lower body split is what I'm currently doing. For that reason, when I'm doing upper body, lower body split, I'm only training twice a week. However, you can still do upper body, lower body and train 4 times a week. Just because of my football, I'm not doing that. And having said what I've just said about doing push-pull legs, if I was to, be able to be realistic about the time and the goals I have, if I do push-pull legs, that means I'd have to go to the gym about 5 or 6 times a week. Maybe you do 1 leg session a week, but 5 or 6 times a week to train it twice, which is what I recommended at the start. Whereas I can just train everything twice, doing upper, lower a week. So 4 times a week versus 6 times a week. That's about, time effective and being realistic in yourself. Of course, you do need rest days as well to recover, but that's already been mentioned briefly. So, as I said, at the moment, with what I've learned and everything, I would stick to the upper body, lower body, sorry. But I would just do it double the volume that I'm doing at the moment if I was to do less football. Because I'm doing football, only 2 weight sessions a week. So with me making clear my recommendations for certain traditional routines, you can obviously interpret this how you like and make various adaptations based on the situation that you are in. For example, if I'm recommending you do a heavy bench press movement on an incline and you've got shoulder problems, then maybe think about doing an alternative with cables or something like that. And what I'm recommending isn't going to be set in stone. It's just things that I like or things that works well for me, and it's just something that I've already, as I made clear in my introduction video on this channel, I'm hoping you'll be able to use this video to build off of things, not necessarily copy it if you don't feel like it works the 100% the best way and you've got a certain idea which you want to push forward, which I haven't touched on because everyone is different. So with that in mind, how my upper body day would look like is the same week in, week out pretty much. I don't do one of my chest movements because I do that on a different day, on my lower body day. And I'd also like to make clear that when I'm doing this upper body day and lower body day, it's also paired with plyometric movements, because that's, the way I'm training and everything. So to make my life a bit easier on the upper body day, I'm moving one of the upper body day movements onto a different day. So I'm a bit, more, I'm not taking up my whole day doing, gym work. The longest day I have in the gym is the upper body day, and the plyometric day takes about 2.5 hours, sometimes 3, depending on how long you have to wait, which is, very long, of course. So you've got to realize, though, that I'm spending about an hour doing plyometric movements as well. So when we're looking at this, when I'm doing an upper body day, I would include a chest fly movement as well, but I'm just saying that's going to be covered on a different day anyway, so I'm not mentioning this on this specific day. So what I start off with is I start with a row, like a row variant. I do a rear delt row, and that's when your arms sort of gripping the handle like this, and you're rowing towards, being in a position where you're working your rear delts. Now, depending on the arm path or the grip that you have will depend on what muscle you're working. If it's more, you see this on a machine, if it's more of a 45-degree hold, it's working your lat to be more of a lat row. Whereas with the 90 degrees and you're pulling it, sort of to have your arm path about 45 degrees from your body, I hope that makes sense. Then when you see your elbows are 45 degrees away from your body, that is working more rear delts, and it's sort of doing a similar motion to a face pull, if you've seen that exercise as well. The reason why I prefer this one is because it's seated, it's with a machine, so it's improved stability, so it's more able to, focus when I'm doing that work. I'm focusing on pulling the weight. I'm not having to focus on keeping myself balanced, like with a face pull, because it's not very stable. You've got to focus, you're not falling over, you've got to put some energy into your balance, and that's, just harder to progressively overload when you're having to worry about all this other stuff. So we start with a seated row, and then as soon as after I've gone to pretty much to failure or close to failure on the row motion, I will then keep the weight the same, and then I will just go straight into it's like a superset of some kind, where you eventually go into sort of shrugs. In that position, I do about 4 to 6 shrugs afterwards. Still try to keep the form good, making sure I hold it at the top of the movement and slowly on the way down on the eccentric. And that's a very difficult exercise to start with, to be fair. It's very, taxing, and, it's very good because it works your rear delts, your traps, your rhomboids. It works a bit of everything, but it is called a rear delt row. Of course, it does include it includes everything pretty much off the back. That's why it's a nice exercise to start with. Sorry, my camera had died there, but essentially what I was going to go on to say is that if you can have, more time in your selected exercise split, it's something that is like, focused on the shoulders or rear delts only. Also, it's like pull day, because common misconception is that rear delts is part of shoulders. The shoulders tend to be associated with push, while rear delts are part of a pull day. Or you're doing something like shoulders and it's bro split, and you've got plenty of time. So apart from things like upper and lower or total body, I would recommend not to do this. But if you do want to try and isolate the rear delts even more, you can do something like a cable rear delt fly, you grab the cable at the top and slowly put it down. I'd probably put on screen an example of someone doing it, maybe like Ryan Dewars or something. So yeah, that's another option, but because I haven't really got time to nitpick and isolate muscles like that, and I want to get a good general starting point with an overall good stimulation of all the back muscles as possible, this is a good one for me to start with. And after this, I'll be going straight into an incline Smith machine bench press. If I had an incline machine press, I'd go for this, but I don't at my gym, and Smith machine is a fun exercise to do. I like pushing the bar, and that's one of the factors because I enjoy doing the exercise. Now, I wouldn't do cable flies as well as this if I wasn't specifically trying to improve my chest, but it's a weak point for me. So for that reason, that's why I'm doing 2 sort of chest exercises. So 2 exercises for the muscle group on this day. And you may think when I get finished this sort of idea that I'm not doing a lot of exercises and a lot of sets, but the reason why I'm not doing many is because I'm trained to very high intensity and doing low sets, low volume, and I need to give myself enough time to recover. So in terms of weightlifting aspects, I'm training still for about 1.5 to 2 hours with each session. So even before I was doing plyometric stuff, my weightlifting stuff, even if I had one exercise extra that is on a different day, my sessions would be typically around 2 to 2.5 hours long. So it's, if your sessions, my opinion, are a good range to go for is between 1.5 to 2.5 hours. That's a good range in my opinion. If you're going shorter, well, maybe you need to give yourself a bit more time to rest or train harder, and if you're taking a bit longer, then maybe just lower the volume or something like that. It depends on the situation, but that's a good time range for me in my opinion. So after that, done 1 chest movement, 1 back movement. Just a little key detail as well on the chest, make sure you're slow on the eccentric explode up, and do not lock out your arms at the top for long. First of all, it's not good for your joints if you're doing a heavy weight as well, in particular to hold it in that position. You do see people do static holds to improve their bench, and that's different case, but it's not really actually mainly about the joints. That was just a sort of extra consideration. If your technique isn't great, you could injure yourself doing that, but mainly the issue with fully extending and holding at the top is the fact that you aren't actually doing any work on your chest at that point. You're actually just resting in the middle of the movement, which is just a waste because you can't, it means you're not training properly. So you need to make sure to keep that movement, just lock out quickly and go down slowly and explode up again. So after that, we're going to be moving on to a single arm lat pull down. Now you can use the cable machines, or if you are lucky enough to have a lat pull down where you can disconnect, reconnect different attachments like I do, and you can put your pulley or your handle on, do it single arm. The only reason it's better for the machine in this case is that it's seated and that you've got there's on this machine, for example, there's sort of leg support, so you feel more stable. You're gripping the machine in the middle, engaging the core, not leaning back too much, and just don't actually go down as far as you need to with the elbow. The elbow doesn't need to be completely parallel to the body or right next to the body. It can stop at exactly where I am, and this means that you can probably get more repetitions, maybe do a higher weight, because people are going further than they need to, and you don't need to pause at the bottom. A bit like with benching, or incline bench press, you can get there and then get to the full range of motion and then immediately slowly back. And don't go too high either. Don't exceed 90 degrees because then you're involving more upper back motion. And I do finish with partials on this one as well on my final set. So after this, I will move on to cable lateral raises with a cuff. They're very cheap. If your gym doesn't have one, you can order one offline on Amazon or something. But essentially, just a cuff lateral raise is quite simple. You take a step out away from the machine, brace with your non-working arm to improve stability. Maybe take a small step backwards, half step backwards, so you're able to actually let your arm come across your body, and then explode on the way up. You can pause briefly at the top, and with the good thing about this exercise, you are more able to control it on the way down. If you have dumbbells, it's a lot harder to control on the way down, and everything. It is a humbling exercise, so don't expect to start on a lot of weight, but you will build it up, definitely, for sure. After this, I'm going to be doing some bicep curls. Now, I originally was doing preacher curls, but then I decided to do this drop set instead, especially because I'm doing upper bodies days. I think when I was doing preacher curls, it's part of the pull day, and so because when I'm doing the upper body day, I'm wanting to do a little mechanical drop set sort of thing. That was a term I was looking for as well on the rear delt row. It's not a superset. A mechanical drop set is pretty optimal because essentially you're moving into a different movement straight away. It's involving different muscle groups, so you're not using fatigued muscles too much. You sort of are, like, you're not going to get as much out of the following set, mechanical drop setted set, if that makes sense, than the first one.
I mean, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on here. It's lost the plot. It's completely lost the plot.
Because you're obviously been doing some work and your CNS is going to be tired. So for that reason, it's just a little bit better than something like a drop set, because you're just working the same muscle groups and fatiguing them massively. Whereas in this one, you're working a different muscle within the same set, if that sort of makes sense. You won't get the most out of it, but it will add. It's a nice little addition to have to cover a wide range of muscles. So I'm going to start with a regular bicep curl to failure, and then be able to get about 4, 5, 6 extra hammer curls as well after that. And that's literally all it is. And the final tricep mechanical drop set is the last exercise I'm going to do, and that is one that has been given to me by I think it was Ryan Dewars. And essentially you start doing the exercise further away from the machine to train one head of the tricep. Then when you can't do any more, you may get about 3 or 4 closer, doing another pull down, but just closer. Make sure your shoulders are back when you're doing the initial movement, and controlling the weight. I do not go heavy on this at all because it's quite difficult to let the form slip on this one. But if you literally, I don't know how weight transfers with all cables, because things like the amount of, whether it's a double pulley and cable machines just aren't consistent with the weight that they list in all gyms. But on mine, it literally was 17.5 kilograms, but with correct form and going slowly on the way up and exploding and holding at the end, and, keeping the shoulders back, it still makes your triceps sore. Like, you can still feel it. That doesn't necessarily mean you're working it, by the way, but it's an indication in this case. So after that, you then move into an overhead extension to do a different head, and you may get about 4 or 5. This is just sort of how many I get, and I do only do one set of this to finish off. And if you want to, after the overhead extensions, may do a tiny amount of partials just to make sure you actually get the most out of it. Now, if I wasn't doing this on another day in my routine, I would do maybe some crunch machine or something like that. Because core, you should probably train core. I mean, not everyone does train core and they have amazing abs anyway, but you can always make it better. It's like a muscle group in itself, obviously. So I would train it and just try and work the weight out, work the reps, keep it controlled on controlled on the eccentric, and then explode on the way down. And yeah, that's about it, really. Now, it's not as easy to go through an upper body day as it is to go through a lower body day for me, because I often pair my lower body day with everything else in mind, like football and plyometrics, so I've got to make sure that they're recovered well enough for everything else. So for me, when it's paired with other things, my leg day will literally consist of a leg extension, a leg curl, pendulum squat, and that's it. But you could maybe add in accessory exercises like abductions or whatever you fancy, glutes maybe. So yeah, deadlifts, for example, or glute bridges, something like that. But I'm just, saying in my context, it's not, I feel like legs are a bit easier to train than other, in terms of figuring out what you should do and being careful, because, in that example, you got your pendulum squat, which does a bit of everything, overall general leg work, leg extension, which is of course quads, leg curls, hamstrings, and the calves a little bit. And yeah, so it's not as hard, I don't think, to understand things, but that was an example I went through, and I hope it makes sense why I did that exercise selection for the upper body day in particular, and that reason being just so I get a range. I'm targeted all muscle groups in that upper body day. I have not directly targeted every muscle group on that day, but I directly targeted a lot, and then the other muscles are involved. Like, for example, I haven't done a trap, a trap row or anything like that, or a certain movement that specifically targets the front delts, because that's sort of involved in the incline press. So that's sort of a way to get a good balance out. Of course, if you do take your weightlifting more seriously, I would still recommend, if I had more time and I wasn't doing things like football, prioritizing that, I would train twice a week, doing upper lower, if you are really dedicated to it, I mean, I would do push-pull legs and push-pull legs, so twice a week, which is a lot of gym work. So that would just mean that then you can isolate muscles more and it would be a little bit better. But given the circumstance that I'm in, that is why I'm doing the upper body, lower body split. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did like it, make sure you subscribe and share it to any other friends. Leave a comment down below with any feedback, because that is always appreciated. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.